Good afternoon and welcome to the Senior Hour, which is sponsored by Providence Holy Cross Medical Center, IMAC Med Spa, and Comfort Keepers in Home Care. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host,
Dr. Thomas Polucki,
on your hometown station, 98.1 FM, AM 1220 KHTS. This is a show for, about, and by seniors, giving information to enhance one's quality of life. And our first guest this afternoon is Tim Trorig of Guardians SCV.
Hi, Barbara.
It's good,
How you doing, Doctor?
It's good to see you again.
It's great to be here with you guys. I love being with y'all.
Great. And we'll keep it up, won't we?
Okay, I hope so.
Oh, yes. Yes, we will. So what's going on?
Well, we're really getting ready for our big event Saturday. That's what we're really been talking up in the town, and that is our Patriots Day event, our 9/11 ceremony of remembrance and reflection of that 9/11 event. So we've been working real hard to get everything together. This is our third annual Patriots Day event. And we're partnering again with KHTS, which has really been wonderful.
Oh, absolutely.
And, we're looking forward to kicking it off this Saturday. So it's going to be an exciting day. Looks like the weather is going to be perfect for us this year. So,
yes, it's going to be beautiful. A little bit hot.
Yep, we'll take
supposedly, according to the weather lady.
Yeah, we'll take a little hot over rain.
Rain, oh, absolutely.
So
absolutely.
Last year, we had to change things up last year because of the rain, but we're excited to see that it's going to be a beautiful day for us to have that event.
That's terrific. Absolutely terrific.
All right, Tim, so tell us a little bit about what to expect at the event. Like, what if someone's going, it's on the Saturday from when to when?
It's this Saturday at 28776 the Old Road in Valencia, which is the LA Police Gear and Higher Vision Church parking lot.
Gotcha.
It goes from 8 a.m. till 12 noon. We'll be serving an amazing breakfast from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m., and it's free to everyone. Donations are accepted if they'd like to donate, but it is free. There's no cost to our event. We're going to have a bunch of amazing vehicles as part of our car show for that day, from exotics to 4x4s to fire, police, and military vehicles to you name it, classic cars. It's really going to be wonderful. If anybody's been to our last couple of events, they realize that there's quite a neat bunch of vehicles that show up. So it's really going to be a great day for the family. And then we're going to have a real special ceremony that day. And that is going to be a ceremony of remembrance and reflection where we're going to have some special speakers. We have our representative, Mike Garcia, will be coming out. Our mayor of Santa Clarita, Jason Gibbs, will be there. Fred Arnold of Santa Clarita, who's a great guy who is involved with a lot of nonprofits in our community.
Oh, yes, he is.
And a big supporter.
Has been for many years.
Yes, yeah, a wonderful man will be doing our Pledge of Allegiance for us. And we have Terrell Edwards singing our national anthem again this year, who is amazing. He brought me to tears last year. That was the first time I heard him sing, and he sang it a cappella, and I was like, oh my gosh. And I had to get back up on stage and continue on with the ceremony. And it took me a while because it was just beautiful, the way that he sang the national anthem. So we'll be having that going on. We'll be sharing a little bit of, where were you? Where was everybody on that day, 22 years ago on 9/11? Because I think for those of us that are a little older, there's a whole generation now that wasn't even around then, that doesn't even remember it. And so it's something that we don't want to forget. As a nation, we said we would never forget. And that's part of why we have created this event for our community, so that we can make sure that our community never forgets what happened on that day and all the brave men and women that sacrificed so much to save others that day.
And that's what your organization is about, isn't it?
Yes. Guardians, our organization, it became a nonprofit about 2.5 years ago, but it was a small group for about 6-7 years. And we realized there's so much more we would like to do amongst our community of fire, police, and military men and women. And so we said, hey, let's turn this into a nonprofit. There's so much going on with our veterans, with the suicides. There's so much going on with our law enforcement and firefighters who also dealing with really high statistics in the suicide rates, to where more of them are going to die by suicide than in the line of duty, which is horrific.
Oh, it is.
So we decided, hey, let's do something about that, because we saw how powerful it was to have this small group. And the peer-to-peer connection and the relationships that we built, during that time were really powerful. And we saw how it gave us a safe place to share about things we normally wouldn't share with other people.
Right.
And so we were able to start to process out some of our own feelings and emotions, from maybe some things that have happened in our careers to family things to struggles that were going on. And we thought, you know what? This has worked so well for us. Let's do something really special. Let's turn this into a nonprofit, and let's see how we can impact our community of people. And so since we had about 12 or 13 of us when we turned it into a nonprofit, and within 6 months we quadrupled our attendance. And we have about 80 members today. And we have 3 different kinds of people that come to Guardians. We have those that come because they need support. They know they're struggling. They know there's issues, and they don't know where to go, so they've reached out to Guardians. We have others that come that go there to support others and be there for their brothers and sisters who might need some support, who can say, hey, you know what, I've been where you've been. Mm-hmm. I know what it's like. I've experienced some of what you're experiencing. Let me show you how I got through. And maybe that individual that's struggling will go, hey, that's stuff that I can use in my own life. And then they realize, too, they're not alone, that they've got brothers and sisters surrounding them, supporting them. And it's, Guardians is really about the power of peer-to-peer support. That's what makes it so special is veterans helping veterans, and cops helping cops, and fire guys and women helping fire guys. It's just, and then there's a lot of crossover, too, because a lot of what we all have experienced, even though you have military, law enforcement, firefighter, there's a lot of similarities. When it comes to trauma, what you see.
Oh, that's true.
The stress, sacrifices that you may make, sacrifices you see others make. And so that common thread there really brings that group really close together. So we provide weekly support groups for these men and women on Monday nights at 7 p.m. at Higher Vision. They've allowed us to use a really cool room there where we all get together and meet. And then every other week we have what's called Guardian Wives, because we realized that it's more than just us guys and gals getting healthy. It's about the whole family and how important it is for us to get the whole family well. It's kind of like addiction. If you have addiction in the home, the whole family can get sick.
That's true.
And so when there's trauma, where there's these kinds of issues bubbling up in a family, the whole family can really struggle in trying to stay connected and get through, these tough times without some support, some help and guidance. So the Guardian Wives group is really a powerful group. And then one of our members, we start talking about, what are you passionate about? What is it that, because we realized that the men and women that have struggled with suicide, that there were some commonalities there too. They lost their passion, they lost their purpose, they lost connecting with others. So we said, hey, let's try to bring all of that into Guardians. So what are you passionate about? One of our guys is passionate about off-road vehicles, going out on 4x4 with Jeeps. So we said, start a group. And he started Guardians 4x4 off-road group. And so he gets together with brothers and sisters who have the same passion. And we also invite others in the community, whether they're fire, police, or military, doesn't matter. Come on out and be a part of, hanging out with us and being part of that that type of support. Even though it's fun, it's really their support that happens there. It's the connection. It's getting to get out and do stuff.
It's togetherness.
It's togetherness. Yeah, and that's so important, because aloneness, being alone, is really one of the primary things you see happen amongst those men and women that struggle. They end up alone.
Yeah, speaking of that, off-roading, you want to talk about support when you don't realize it. Well, if you're a novice, you don't realize it that, guess what? There's no cell service out there. So your navigation doesn't work. And, if you're not prepared properly, you are relying on whoever is in front of you or behind you to know what the situation is.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's that team concept, right? You all work together. And I'm always amazed at some of these. I'm not a big four-wheel guy. I did a little bit when I was younger. But they have some of the trickiest little things to help in situations from onboard air compressors to
you're going to use that for sure.
Oh my gosh, they've got special winches and things, and they're very talented when it comes to making repairs and fixing things when you're way out in the middle of nowhere where there's no cell phone.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah, so you see that it's really been cool, and then we started doing retreats for our guardians, which has really been wonderful. Taking them up into the mountains. Getting everybody away from the hustle and bustle.
Oh, that's neat.
And it's neat what happens up there because there's something about getting away from the normal environment you're used to being in and just getting away from home and all of that to where your brain can just kind of just kind of release all that stress and you can kind of start to think in a different level. And we had our last retreat up in we go to Camp Arev, which is up in Fraser Park, so it's not too far.
Camp Arev?
It's an Armenian Christian camp that allowed us to come up and do our Guardians retreat up there for the weekend, and it feels like you're miles and miles away from everywhere, but you're only 45 minutes away from Santa Clarita. Right. So, but it works, And we had a wonderful time up there doing archery and axe throwing and great food, camaraderie, big fire pit in the evening of where we all sit around and really get into some personal talking, starting to process some things out. And that's where it happens. The magic happens in those kinds of settings where you have everybody around and they're kind of out of their comfort zone in a sense of, or their zone that they're used to being in with the hustle and bustle, to where you can kind of relax and let down, and then things start to happen where you can see the healing take place.
Yeah, and when you get a group of people together like that, men and women, someone starts talking and that says, oh, I remember when that so-and-so happened to me. And that's what keeps the camaraderie together. It's everybody sharing.
Yes, and that you are so right, Barbara, on that. That is one of the keys and why we encourage our guardians to share. Tell your story. Even though maybe you may not be through your story, it still may be something you're really struggling with. The fact that you share and talk about what you're going through may unlock somebody else that goes, hey, that's my story too.
Yes.
Hey, I think maybe I can share that here too and get the kind of support that's being offered here, which really is brotherhood, sisterhood. Hey, we're always here for you. We're a phone call away. We're here every Monday night. That you have a family of support, and it's called Guardians. And that's how we see ourselves as a family. And speaking of that, we just Monday night of this week, which was the first Monday of the month, every first Monday of the month, we do what's called Family Food Night, where we invite all the guardians to bring their families out. We provide a dinner for that evening, and we just hang out together and see families meeting families and kids meeting kids and just enjoying having that kind of camaraderie and connection.
Just a fun night.
Yeah, and of course there's a lot of banter that goes on amongst these guys and gals, as it probably does in any kind of career field. When you get like-minded people together, there's certain kinds of jokes that work in your field. Well, we have a lot of those kind of things that go on at Guardians that we're very used to. That's been a part of our life.
So even Coast Guard is allowed?
Yeah. We talked about that one time. We've kind of made it that if you're sworn personnel, that's how we decipher that. We've had a lot of others ask, and everything from EMTs and paramedics and doctors and things like that. And I truly believe they all need that kind of support.
Yes.
But we had to really limit to what we could focus on and not get too wide with everything to where we're trying to balance all that. But I truly believe a peer-to-peer group like what Guardians does would be so helpful for our healthcare workers and those that work in that area. They've been through a lot over these last years with COVID and all of that. So I could see that being very helpful.
Oh, I would think that would be.
Yeah, so many healthcare professionals just walked away from the whole situation. This has been a real test for the healthcare profession, and I hate to coin phrases, unprecedented stress levels that put career people who were passionate about their work, out of the system.
Well, they had to stay at home.
No. I'm talking about the frontliners.
I'm sorry.
The people who had to show up every day and deal with it, and nobody knew how to deal with this.
Yeah. There was a lot of unknown,
Yep.
Nobody really, you're right.
But that's what you guys deal with every day.
We do.
You walk into
Every
a
time.
burning building and
Yep.
there's, real-time decisions that have to be made and lives are on the line.
Yeah. And it doesn't decrease the stress level. But when you get something so different, like a virus, that nobody really knows, yet about, that they were trying to figure all that out, it can be a little daunting. And, when you're going on I know on the fire department, with our paramedics and fire guys and gals, that they were going on lots and lots of calls. So
Yep.
I'm sure in the back of your mind is, okay, how could this affect me? I got COVID back not too long after it started, and I was in the hospital for 8 days and on oxygen and went through all of that, and it destroyed me. It almost cost me my life. But I bounced back through it. But it was, I realized I was just one of many, many people. And I was very fortunate because there were a lot that weren't as fortunate as me that didn't survive that virus. A lot of families lost a lot of loved ones and friends.
Yes, at the beginning of it, I think
Yes.
that did happen.
Yeah. But it seems like we've moved, farther along in that. But it kind of reminds me of just, the trauma that we can experience as individuals. Mm-hmm. That was very traumatic for me. I'm a fire guy. I consider myself a pretty brave guy, but when all of a sudden your life is in jeopardy and they're telling you, hey, we don't know if you're going to survive this.
Right.
I'll tell you, it really makes you think.
Yep.
It makes you think about what's important. And I think in Guardians, so many of these guys and gals have experienced life and death situations.
Oh, yes.
And so we really challenge them with what's important in your life. What really matters when it comes down to it. And for me personally, it's my family and it's my faith and it's my brothers and sisters, that I'm a part of, that group with Guardians. Those are things that really matter, that are part of my circle of support, part of my circle of things I'm passionate about, and that really help me to stay motivated and connected and with purpose.
Yep.
And again, tell us the information on what's happening Saturday.
So Saturday, we're doing our Patriots Day event at 28776, the old road in Valencia, in the Higher Vision LA Police Gear parking lot. One of the things I wanted to share with you real quick about one of the things we're doing there this year is we're doing what's called an opportunity drawing. And so it's an opportunity for those that come to purchase some tickets, and we've got some amazing items that we'll be giving away. And some of those items are gift certificates from Firehouse Subs, from Fun Burger. We have a Disney basket. We have a KHTS Restaurant Row certificates. We have charcuterie board that's been given to us. We have a really cool flag that's coming from Esprit de Corps flag group. They've made a special flag for our 9/11 event. It's those wooden flags that we're going to be giving away there. Home Depot has jumped in with us this year with some tools that we'll be giving away. We've got a barbecue from Lowe's. We've just got some really great stuff that we are going to be giving away during that opportunity drawing. So a big breakfast.
That's from 8 to 10?
8 till 12 on the event, 8 to 10 for the breakfast. And then our ceremony will start at 8:15 a.m. with all of our special guest speakers. And we will really pay tribute to those that lost their lives before that day, on that day, and since. Because so many young people, a lot of young people after that event went into the military. And it was what was kind of a deciding factor for a lot of them that said, hey, I'm going to go serve in the military after that.
Right.
And we've lost a lot of them since that time as well. And many of those workers that were there working in the debris, both civilian, fire, police, all port police, all of those that were there that day, more now have died because of their exposure to all of that stuff than actually died the day of 9/11. And it's been from lung diseases and all this stuff from all that dust and stuff that they breathed in.
Yeah, but the most disturbing statistic is what you opened the show with, and that's that more people are dying from suicide than in the line of duty.
Yes. And you know what? A lot of people, not just fire, police, and military, but just people in general and young people struggle with depression and anxiety. The number one thing is reach out, find some support.
Thank you, Tim. The Guardian event, September 11th event, is actually not happening on September 11th. It's this Saturday at Higher Vision over there on the old road in front of, just past Magic Morton, but before you get to the 26th.
That's correct. And if they want more information, they can go to our website at guardiansscv.org, or they can call us at 347-6307.
Thank you so much. You've been listening to the Senior Hour, KHTS 98.1 FM, AM 1220, hometownstation.com.
Welcome back to the Senior Hour. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host, Dr. Thomas Polucki, on your hometown station, 98.1 FM, AM 1220, KHTS. And our guest now is Adam Laraway from Focus Physical Therapy. It's good to see you again.
Nice to see you. How are you doing today?
Good. I'm doing great. And what's our subject for today?
I thought we would talk about posture. I've been seeing a lot of patients, especially our elderly patients, with kind of forward head, forward shoulder posture, and that creates a lot of problems in your neck and your upper back, and it can just cascade all the way down the spine.
For people who aren't familiar with that phrase, because we're talking shop here, it's looking down and leaning forward. And you see this so much out there, but especially, like you said, in the senior community. And Barb brought up with seeing people in walkers in that position, which is probably very, very challenging. But we're seeing it in kids now because they spend all day looking down at their device.
That's right. I didn't think about that. Yeah. They do.
They do.
Yep.
Walk along the street looking like this and up.
Yep. Yeah. We call it text neck. Yeah. It's not good. And I'm on my kids and my wife about it all the time, and my patients as well. And you just see it more and more and more. It was interesting. My oldest daughter just went to college. We dropped her off last Friday. But in the presentation during the Parents' Weekend, they said that the average student spends 2,796 hours a year on their cell phone.
What?
That breaks down to about 7 hours a day. It's insane. And, that's what we're seeing is that posture and that forward head position, and it puts so much pressure on your neck, let alone the mental aspect of being on your phone that much. But, from a physical therapist standpoint, we worry about those forward positions for the head, because then your chest muscles get tight and your upper back muscles get stretched out and they become weak, and your spine, gets out of its base of support. And that's important because gravity never gives up. And once your posture starts to go forward, that means gravity's pulling your head down all day long. It never gives up. We want gravity to take a break, but it really doesn't. And so, it's one of those things you really have to focus on your posture. And, those old commercials about, slapping you in the back, stand up straight. There's actually some truth to it. If you're in an upright posture, gravity is loading your spine the way that it was designed.
My mother was always banging me on the back. Stand up straight. Yeah. Stand up straight.
Yep.
And I'm so glad she did.
Right? We hated it at the time. But we really, there's actually, reason for that, because it pays off down the road.
Because you don't realize that you're like this.
Yeah.
You really don't.
Yeah.
And until something happens or somebody does something, like my mother did, whack me on the back, stand up straight.
Yeah.
Put those shoulders back.
Yeah. And it affects everything, because the minute your shoulders and your head come forward, your respiration starts to drop. You can't get a good expansion of your rib cage, and it just really kind of wreaks havoc all the way down the chain.
Well, it's interesting. My father's mother was 6 feet tall. They have pictures of her where there's a little table here and she's up here, But she was straight as a stick.
Yeah.
You never saw her down. She was always straight, always. And I look at that picture and I think to myself, wow, how many years ago was that?
Right.
And there she was, standing straight as a stick.
Yeah. It's important. It really is. And you know, you work different muscles if you keep yourself in an upright position versus if your head and shoulders are in that forward position.
Right.
And that's where we can help you in physical therapy. We get people coming all the time, and that's literally after we've taken what's called the subjective, where we kind of, you know, listen to what your complaints are or what your issues are that you're coming to us for. But one of the first things that we assess, you know, when we do our portion of the evaluation called the objective portion, is look at your posture. We're looking for asymmetries. We're looking for, you know, what your head position, what your shoulder position, you know, what your hip position does.
Right.
Because all of those factors will then cue us in where we need to start doing some special tests and figuring out what's going on. But so much of what we see now is a lot of postural dysfunctions. Yes. So it's so
and
important.
You see it all the time.
Yeah.
People walking by here,
Oh, yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
down like this,
Yeah.
and not standing up straight.
Yeah.
And it really bugs me when I see people like that, especially that woman I was telling you about
Absolutely.
on that
Absolutely.
walker.
And
You
it,
know.
yeah, and it goes all the way up and down.
Why the family doesn't up those handlebars?
Right.
Because you can do that on walkers.
Right, exactly.
They do come up.
Yeah.
And you can stand up straight.
Right. And most people, when they use their walker, they use it incorrectly. They're pushing it in front of them.
That's
when
right.
They really should be upright in the walker.
That's right.
But-
Exactly.
But it's easy to do, you know.
Well, that's why I've seen some people with those straight up ones
Yep.
that they hold it up here.
Yep. Because it forces you to stay upright.
yeah,
We're starting to see
forces
those a
you.
little bit. I haven't seen too many of those, but
No.
you're starting. I think it's a better concept for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's harder to transport.
It is definitely harder
Yes.
to transport,
You
know.
can't throw that in the back seat.
No, they
Yeah.
need to work on how to fold those up a little bit better because
Yeah.
they are pretty bulky for sure.
Yeah,
That's
but
true.
most people don't realize your head weighs the same as a bowling ball.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a thing called your center of gravity. It lives a couple inches behind your belly button. And as long as the center of your head is over that center midline of your body, you'll last indefinitely.
Yep.
There's less strain on not just the structures, the muscles, the joints, which a lot of people wind up with a problem with.
Right.
Everything from head to toe. I see people with hip replacements, knee replacements, and after they've had their surgery, after they've had their rehabilitation from their surgery, they come in and they have 4 to 6 inches of forward head posture.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
This is just a matter of time before something else blows out.
Right.
But as you said, it's not just the joints. It's not just the muscles. It immediately compromises your breathing, your circulation, your heart, and that sets up an emergency reaction in the brain chemistry. So you start pumping out all the stress chemicals.
Right.
And then things like digestion and sleep pattern and your ability to heal and recover and manage future stresses are all compromised.
Absolutely.
Simply by looking down instead of looking up. It's crazy. And here's the kicker. I know a lot of people use Dr. Facebook and Dr. YouTube, and there are some very good physicians out there on Dr. YouTube, very famous, very credible physicians. The problem is they're giving broad advice, which doesn't necessarily apply to you, and people think that, this is, this person has the credentials, they know. But without an evaluation, they don't.
Right. Yeah.
They don't know what is going on with you or what your best answer could look like.
Right.
And that's what the functional evaluation is all about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it does just go with the head. I mean, it goes down the chain. And
Everywhere.
So, if you sit a lot, your hip flexors can be tight, which then when you stand, you're going to be in that flex forward position at your hips. So, that's going to put your hips at more stress and that type of stuff. And then, it just keeps going down the chain. Your knees get a little more flex. You should stand pretty upright when you're standing postural wise. And you'd be amazed when you look at, the older population or somebody with really poor posture, their knees are flexed, they're everything's kind of compensating. It's kind of just goes up and down the chain. I've joke around. I'll see sometimes with my kids, I'll see somebody walking, and they look like literally I could take a chair and bring it up behind them while they're walking down the street, and it would fit perfectly because they're so flexed forward at their hips. And so you have to get those muscles, into the right position so that you can be in that upright posture. And it's really, really important because it's a cascade all the way down the chain from every system possible.
And our system is designed to treat the most immediate emergency.
Mm-hmm.
Like nobody tracks back these things that I just talked about: compromised digestion, compromised immune function, compromised blood pressure, and heart function.
Yeah.
And obviously you have to deal with it if it's in a medical emergency. But what then? If you leave them with all that stress on the system before anything in the day happens to them, it's just a time bomb. And it doesn't matter how much medication you take to treat the emergency. If you're constantly putting that kind of stress on the system, you can't get better.
Right.
You can't recover.
Yep. The hard part is we work with people 1, 2, 3 hours a week at most, and so getting them to remember those postures throughout the day for those other 165 hours in a week, that's the key. And so I always joke around, my patients always say, I have this little atom that stands on my shoulder and keeps telling me, stand up straight, do all this type of stuff, And it's important because I have to get into their head to get that carryover.
Yeah.
Right.
And sometimes what I'll do is I'll give people an example. I'll say, slouch down, now try and sneeze or cough. You can't. Because you've compressed everything through there.
That's
versus
right.
what do you do when you normally seize? You open up, take a breath, and then boom, and so you use that compression. Well, if you're already in that compressed position, it's not efficient.
Right.
And so sometimes though, giving that example and having somebody try and, slouch down and take a deep breath, they can't. Or try and raise their arm, if they're in that position. You can only go up so far, but then all of a sudden you open up and it goes the rest of the way. So it's really kind of getting those examples, and that's what we do in physical therapy to teach patients, how to kind of recognize those things throughout their day that they're putting themselves in those poor positions. So,
Well, it's interesting because I went to see my oncologist this past Monday, and he, of course, puts that thing all over,
Mm-hmm.
and he says, "Good, I'm glad to see you sitting up straight." And I thought, whoa, how many doctors would say something like that?
right.
Not many.
Yeah, he's got good awareness, so that's good.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Well, it's been a year since I had it, the middle of September last year. I had that horrible, horrible C word.
Barb, no cursing on air.
I said horrible, horrible C word.
You're British, so we'll let it slide.
Well, I could say
It's a term of endearment there.
I can say some nasty British words too.
Right, yeah.
I still remember the nasty British words.
All right, so Adam, give us a case study, a scenario that you recent, fresh, topical, related to what we're talking about.
Yeah, so I actually have one that I'm working on with right now, and it was interesting when they came into the clinic, their posture was so far forward with their head position. I literally was looking at the top of their head.
Was this a younger person?
No, it's an older. He's probably
Senior?
mid-50s, late 50s.
Hey,
I know.
Uh-oh.
I know.
Uh-oh.
Well, you said kid, so I said no older than a kid, So, but he's probably I'm thinking probably late 50s. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, but yeah. So but it had happened. I think it happened over a long period of time. They, I get with HIPAA, I got to be real careful how much I divulge, but they had a condition that happened when they were a lot younger, and so there was a lot of treatment that had caused a lot of muscular atrophy and that type of stuff. So, but it's been amazing. I've been working with them now for probably a year. I mean, it was pretty significant atrophy, but it's amazing. Like it's like they're 6 inches taller now because they can get upright. They can actually, when they're walking, they're looking straight ahead, where before they were looking out of the top of their, of their forehead because they could not see in that position.
Horrible.
And it's been so cool to see like their improvement, and they love to play tennis, and so now all of a sudden they can throw a ball up above them to do an overhead serve, which they couldn't because they were in such a forward position. You can't get up there, and so it's been a lot of fun to work with them and see these improvements, and just the ability to all of a sudden hold their head up and kind of get their vision back. So it's really been a lot of fun.
Well, do you have many seniors that you treat?
We do,
with
yeah.
problems.
Yeah,
that are similar.
Yeah, our seniors are probably about 25% of our practice. We see the age ranges from about 6 years old is kind of our youngest. Any younger than that, and you really need a lot more toys and stuff like that, and we don't have a whole lot of that type of stuff. All the way up to 100 plus, and I would say probably about 25% of our practice is senior level patients.
With the
yeah. Like I said, we're seeing it more and more. I think because people are sitting more, they're on computers, they're on phones, they're on tablets and stuff like that, and so we are seeing definitely a lot more neck and kind of upper back issues than we used to, for sure. It's always been an issue, but I would say probably our most common had been kind of knees, back, and shoulder. We're definitely seeing a lot more neck, so that's for sure. Yeah.
Well, I know Dr. Polucki treats me every other week.
Yeah.
And that makes a big difference because I do a lot of sitting at home since I'm there by myself most of the time.
Yep.
But I do get up and walk around.
Perfect.
I walk up and down the hall and around the house.
One of the most important keys is to keep moving. And we'll talk more about that when we get back from our break. You're listening to the Senior Hour at KHTS 98.1 AM 1220, hometownstation.com.
Welcome back to the Senior Hour. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host, Dr. Thomas Polucki, on your hometown station, 98.1 FM, AM 1220, KHTS. I was thinking of that sign.
Need to borrow my sign there, Bar. Welcome to
speaking,
the senior moment.
And we're speaking with Adam Laraway. Adam Laraway from Focus Physical Therapy. You can tell I'm getting older. So, how are we finishing the show?
So I thought for our last few minutes, we talked a lot about posture and how important it is, but, what do we do about that? And so, the biggest thing is that's when you come in for an evaluation, with us, and we look at what those deficits are. And most of the time, obviously everybody is unique to their own, case, but most of the time it's usually the muscles in the front, your chest muscles have gotten a little tight, the muscles in your upper back have gotten a little bit weak. And so we will give exercises, usually with some type of bands or something like that that's easy to do at home, to really try and strengthen that upper back and then stretch out that chest muscles. As you start to do those two things, then the head will kind of come back into its normal position. But sometimes we have to get very specific with exercises to strengthen those muscles in your neck as well. The muscles in your neck are much smaller because they're really designed to kind of just hold your head in position, versus the muscles in your upper back and your chest are much bigger muscles, and so they are doing more of the grunt work when you're using muscles with your activities of daily living. So that's where we go. There's lots of different stretches, and it's always hard to kind of demonstrate stretches on the air.
I wanted to ask you about when you go to bed.
Yes.
And go to sleep.
Yes.
Your head is always like this.
It shouldn't be.
It should be?
It should not be.
Should not be.
It should not be, yeah. So when...
I have to constantly move myself.
Yeah.
Because I have a tendency to do this.
Kind of curl in there.
And pull the pillow up right in here and do this.
Yep. So we talk to patients about that, whether they like to sleep on their back or on their side. And if they're a side sleeper, we want a pillow that's enough space to fill in that space between your shoulder and your head to fill that space. I always tell patients if I were to take a picture or an x-ray of them from the front when they're laying on their side, their spine should be pretty much neutral. If it's too much pillow, they're going to have a side bend to one side. And if it's too little, they're going to have a side bend to the other side. And so you really want those ligaments to be in neutral position. So having the right pillow is really, really important. And there's hundreds of different styles of pillows. And so I have gotten away from kind of recommending certain ones. Everybody's different. Some people like them soft, some people like them hard. And so we really have to get specific with that for what they want.
Yeah, I have to constantly, because when I'm like this, it starts to hurt, and I wake up. And I realize, whoa, straighten yourself, Barbara, straighten yourself.
Yeah, but the even worse is if you don't wake up and you wake up in the morning and you can't straighten out. So it is critically important to pay attention to being on your back, or if you are on your side, that you have the support like Adam said. So Adam, on that bombshell, give us your contact information, please.
We are located off of Peachland Avenue, 25050 Peachland Avenue. We are in, our website is Focus Physical Therapy, scv.com, and our phone number is 661-255-4205.
Adam Laraway, Focus Physical Therapy. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show. You've been listening to Senior Hour. We're sponsored by Comfort Keepers, iMac Med Spa, and Providence Holy Cross. It's the Senior Hour, KHTS FM 98.1 AM 1220, your hometown station.com. Now go out and enhance your quality of life.